Live, guys. Welcome, folks. We had a little technical difficulty, but we've got it straightened out right now. Welcome. We're building Boost right here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Got Marvin McDonald right here to my right, and Brad Gautier, the man that does a lot of work on all these tractors. Welcome. We had a great show here last night. I got here a little late. Got here right at the end of the two-wheel drive class. Had a heck of a class of two-wheel drives here last night. One thing about it, Jimmy Johnson ended up pulling off the win. But, him and Alan Brown, you don't ever give them two guys opportunity. They're going to take advantage of it. That's for sure. Super Farm class, had a good Super Farm class here last night. Marvin, what happened in that class?
We had 7 Super Farms here last night. The Chris Hales with the Outlaw was the winner. I tell you, the track was wonderful, but at the far end down there, it just depended on if you were in the right spot at the right time. And Chris figured it out. Barrett was right behind him. The bad boy wound up third, and they stacked on back. But all of them were within probably about 10 or 12 foot down there. So it was really a good, close, tight class.
Well, I know one thing I noticed last night, and you were down there too, Brad. I watched right there at the end. Chris knew when he ran out of track. Because as soon as he hit that hard spot right at the end of the track, because the track here is a little bit shorter, we have to add, about 60, 70 feet into this track. So one thing about here is that the finish line is kind of the same way. It's a kind of we call it a short track, but he hit that hard spot. And when he hit it, he just stopped. He knew he was there. There's no reason to dig any deeper. So, we had a great class last night. Overall, the show, the crowd, we had about 1,300 people, adults here, and about 300 kids. So we had a good show here last night. Hopefully tonight will be a little bit better. Hey, Eric, are you getting your steps in this morning? He's walking through. We're right here in the pits. Brad, you do a lot of work between all the 3 different classes, the light pros, and even you're working on the super stock for Ron Beasley and the pro farms and super farms. It's just, you've got a lot of work going on. What is your summer like right now?
Busy.
Busy. I like that word. It's just one word, busy. Yeah. Now, when does your summer kind of, when do you slow down a little bit?
After Hickory.
Yeah. And then you're just kind of like, it's you get a little bit of a break. Tell us a little bit about the kind of work you do for these guys.
We do anything from engine building to a complete tractor, and then we do maintenance on most of them.
And that, I guess that's an important thing, because you're, in the pro farm class, that's going up to about 1,100 horsepower now, right?
Yeah. And they had a good class last night with 14 vehicles. That's really a good class.
You got, if you like red, you got red. If you like green, you got green. So you got a good mix in there. We got a blue in there too.
We even got a Smurf.
Yeah, got a Smurf. The Grantham's bringing that one up. They're starting to get that one tuned in a little bit. So that's a tough class. We started out in the pro farm class only being 700-800 horsepower, and that was it. And now we're stepping up in the 1,100 horsepower range, and it was kind of like super farms were the 1,400 horsepower a few years ago. And what are you guys putting out of a super farm now?
Super farms are close to 1,800 horsepower now.
That is insane. And then we go look in the light pros, and you got the Beasleys and Lauren Davis last night, just a monster pass, ended up beating all them guys at her hometown track. So I know she was happy with that. And horsepower wise, what are we looking at on a light pro now?
3,000 to 3,100.
That's with one charger.
That's right.
And you realize 15 years ago, we didn't have super stocks that had that much horsepower. And that's just the insanity. And, we had Andy Dutton here last night and Chris Hales in the super stock class. Andy pulling off another win with that one. There is another one, that is being worked on. So that one's going to be interesting. And I can tell you, folks, I've seen it. I don't know if y'all seen it. I think they're trying to keep it under wraps. That is going to be we call it the jackass in the shop. And no offense, Ashley Barnes, because I know you're probably watching this morning. But in the shop, we call it a jackass because there's nothing simple to work on that thing. But, Crutchfield machine is putting some new cylinder heads on that monster, and that was the weak link last year. What was actually happening, the valve seats just were not staying in the cylinder head because the aluminum fatigues over time, getting hot, cold, and it was literally moving the valve seats and dropping the valves, and then you were getting the detonation. I don't know why you'd have a burst panel on it, because every time it's ever detonated, it blew the back of the intake off. So, that's some of the technology. That's where the horsepower has grown over the years. Wheel speed has picked up a lot. But, we talked about the track a little bit. We had a good track last night. What were some of the things you were looking for in that track last night, Brad?
Well, like with the pro farms and the super farms, we look for good, wet, moist, soft dirt, especially on a light pro. You got to have it soft. A super farm can deal with it hard, and you can ride fast with a super farm if it's hard. But with a light pro, if it's hard, it won't hook, and you're not going to ride fast. You're not going to hook.
Yeah.
The pro farms, they'll hook about anywhere. That's the good thing about them. So if you get somewhere and it's kind of a bad track, they will hook and put on a good show.
Well, and we look in pulling, and Marvin, you've kind of, you've promoted Lumberton. We got Lumberton coming up the 6th and 7th of next month. That's going to be a big show. That's going to be an Enderley point show. In fact, the following weekend is the Enderley, so everybody's trying to get those Enderley points. As far as track, I saw where y'all have put some new clay down, and that's one thing about it. A lot of people don't realize, here in Winston-Salem, you've already got good red base clay. So, that works out pretty good. But when we go to Lumberton, that's a totally different beast, because you got a big sand mixture. You're close to the coast. What did y'all bring into Lumberton this year?
Well, like Bert said, where we're at close to the coast, just the geographic area we're in is a coarse soil. It's sandy soil, doesn't hold moisture, like clay. But anyway, for the last several years, we have worked on the Lumberton track and had some wonderful people to donate some dirt and move it in. This year, got to give a shout out to Cody Singletary and KLS Civil Contracting. He called me one day and he said, I'm doing a job in Lumberton and we got some waste clay that I think will be really good. Can you get permission for the Lumberton track? So I called the fair board, and anyway, long story short, Cody delivered 20 tandem loads of good red clay that came off a construction job that was waste. And last week we had it dumped out there, and we spread that dirt, put about 6 inches across the whole track to add to the top of it.
That's a good base too. And here's the other thing a lot of people don't realize. So you put that in, and this year the track will change. And then what'll happen even next year, when that dirt actually settles in and kind of acclimates to the surrounding dirt, you'll have a little bit better track. And that's the thing about it. When you're bringing this dirt in, everybody thinks we pull on, and you hear the comment. I hear it a lot of times. I see it on social media. Y'all pulling on mud. And we don't want to pull on mud. We got to have something to hold that 3,000 horsepower. And like even Andy Dutton's tractor, you're looking at about 4,500. So that's one thing about Lumberton. It's been a definitely for a big tire. That is a big tire track. And I think with you adding that new clay surface to it, that's going to make a difference, where the mini rods and the 2-wheel drives will be able to pick up a little bit more ground speed. And people don't realize that a big tire track compared to a small tire track, there's differences. And that's one thing Lumberton I've noticed over the last couple of years, and you can talk about this a little bit more. That track has definitely picked up. It's a loading track. Everybody went to Lumberton and was like, okay, let's kind of get through the weekend. Let's not break anything. Let's not hurt anything. But now that track everybody wants to go to, because it loads the snot out of the vehicles.
It does. And like I say, that goes right back to, I don't know, 8 years ago, when I really got involved with Lumberton and the helping promote the side of it. When the Shriners were doing it, the track, just with the coarse dirt, you couldn't hold moisture in it, and it would get just as hard. It was almost like pulling on this asphalt that we're sitting
right
in. And that really, cost people truthfully a lot of money. A lot of engines were destroyed in Lumberton because you could not hold the horsepower. And so that's when we knew that if we were going to keep having a pull in Lumberton, we had to do something, or our competitors were not going to come, to that kind of track. And so we started adding clay, and every year we have added some. And right now with the Lumberton track, it's a whole lot more horsepower track than it's ever been.
It definitely is. But tonight, folks, we've got a show, one heck of a show here for you. All 9 classes. We got everything. If you like diesels, if you like horsepower, you got to be here tonight. The pedal pull normally kicks off around 6 o'clock. It's normally about an hour before the show. So if you got a kid 40 to 70 pounds, bring them out here. This is a family-friendly event. We've got walk into pits, get autographs, take pictures with your family. This is definitely a family-friendly event. We'd love to see you here. Gates open at 5 p.m. Show starts right at 7 o'clock. We got a big show here for you. We're going to try to get you out of here, though. We want to get you out of here by 11 o'clock. We got a noise curfew. So get you out of here by 10:30, 11 o'clock. That way you can get home and go to your church of choice tomorrow morning. But don't forget tonight, Winston-Salem. We're here at the Winston-Salem Fairgrounds. I can give you the address, but the easiest thing for you to do is go to Google Maps, put in Winston-Salem Fairgrounds. It will send you right here. I promise you, I've been here a bunch of times, and I've tried all kinds of different ways, but it always gets me here at the Winston-Salem Fairgrounds. This is it. How many passes have y'all made so far? 3.
3 laps.
Eric looks like he's slowing down a little bit. Have them donuts been working on you this morning, Eric? He's only had. I got to eat me. Look, I got to thank Perry and Steven. They host this event here. They bring us donuts every year. We got ice. We got all kinds of good stuff. I had to get my Dunkin' fix. I got back from Bowling Green last week, and I still haven't recovered. But that's a heck of a show. Y'all had some good runs in Bowling Green. All the North Carolina tractors made a big show. In fact, John Strickland won. I don't know how many rings he's won now, Galot, but he had a monster pass that first night, and it was a beautiful pass. But Caitlin. Unfortunately, Donald didn't get to run in that second session. I think he was waiting to sit back there because he had been watching every one of those runs, and he was sitting there taking notes the whole time. But Caitlin, they had some frame damage after Wilson and got that fixed and got it running. So, all the Carolina boys really did a heck of a show, supporting and showing what we can do down here in the Carolinas. I'm going to have one last question, and then I'm going to bring in Glenn Hedrick here for a few minutes. So when you go through and you're working on all these tractors and the different ones, because I know you're working on, you work on some green ones, you work on some red ones. Do you have a preference of brand?
Oh, yeah. International.
International?
Everybody knows that.
Well, I just wanted to, it's official now. Everybody knows. And look, definitely want to give prayers out to Rodney Jackson. He had a little bit of a health event last night, but he's doing good this morning. Glad to hear that. Glad everything's going good tonight. So here's my other question. Russell's not here, but has he paid you anything so he can get in the lead tonight?
No, he's promised something, but he ain't come through.
That's kind of an inside joke, guys. Russell last year picked up a win kind of out of the blue, and everybody walked up and said, "How much do you pay? How much did you pay to get that win?" So that's where the joke kind of goes with that. Look, Brad, I appreciate you joining us here. We're gonna bring in Glenn. Well, he's on the phone now. He's talking. He's like, "I'm getting off. So while we bring in Glenn here, so Lumberton's been going on for it was one of the longest running pulls, and it took a few years off, and you're finally building that pull back up. You got great regional national last year. I think we had about 60 hooks between the mini rods and the 2-wheel drives. I mean, we had a mini rod show. You ain't gonna see it at a Grand National event here down in Lumberton last year. So, and we look forward to seeing a lot of those. They're going for those regional points. They're trying to get that championship. So, what are your ambitions for Lumberton? What are you looking to grow it bigger in the regional national area, or are you looking to maybe possibly in a few years maybe trying something Grand National?
Well, our goal was to take Lumberton and just make it the best pool in southeast North Carolina. Of course, we got Earl at the Galot Motorsports Park in Dunn Benson with the Grand National stuff, but we'll probably stick with the regional national level. Just we could give our regional national guys a spot to perform and have a chance to go to the Enderley. Enderley pull-off is always the weekend after Lumberton. I think this year it's like the 14th of September.
Right.
And, for those who don't know, the Enderley is kind of like the kind of like the all-star of tractor pulling. I mean,
It
the
is.
only way to go pull it to Enderley is you have got to compete, and at the regional level, you got to win a region.
Right.
Now, on the Grand National side, everybody in the top 5 in points get to go. So they have a regional side of the Enderley on Saturday afternoon, and they have a Grand National side. But in Lumberton, our goal is to grow it and have one of the largest region pools in southeast North Carolina for our regional competitors to be able to come and compete and have a chance to go to Urbana.
Yep. Well, that pool is definitely growing, no doubt, with the crowds and the crowd of vehicles that's showing up there. But I got Glenn Hedrick here with me. So you ended up pulling off the win last night, and I got a question for you. Do you ever get bored and tired of pulling? Because you pull anywhere you can pull on a weekend, and you've got a Pro Stock 4-wheel drive truck, and you've got the Pro Mod here, the modified 4-wheel drive truck. So do you ever get tired of pulling, or do you just love it that much?
No, sir. We love to go pull.
Well, now you're
go anytime we can go.
That sounds like a plan. That's what I tell my wife. She told me I was going to go by myself this weekend, though. So one of the big things in the Pro Mod class is, the biggest thing is getting all that horsepower to the ground. These guys with the big tires on the tractors, it's a little bit easier to get those 2 big tires to hook into the track. But if you get on kind of a funny track like last night, there was nothing wrong with the track, but it's just track conditions happen. One of the things I noticed was that in there was like these little soft spots or these little dry spots. How do you manage driving that 4-wheel drive through those soft spots? Because a lot of people think you just get in a 4-wheel drive truck and just go. But if you ever watch inside the cab, you guys are fighting that steering wheel all the way.
Well, Bert, if you do see them track conditions, about the only thing you can do is just have some good throttle management. Don't knock the tires off of it early. Wait till the weight gets on the back of the truck, and then roll throttle and hope for the best.
So, and we've talked about horsepower in the tractor classes, but one thing I want to bring up is the horsepower in the 4-wheel drive class, because that is like every other class. It is exponentially increased quite a bit with the technology. So, what is the horsepower of a modified 4-wheel drive now doing?
Those things are going to range anywhere from 12 to 1,600.
And sometimes it's good to have that 1,600. But sometimes in the modified 4-wheel drive class, it's good to have that 1,200 sometimes.
A lot of times the most horsepower truck is not always the winner. It's the guy that can really negotiate the track conditions with his tire pressures and his rate of throttle with his clutch and his foot. His eye coordination with his hand and his foot really helps a lot. Well,
you would obviously be better at it than I would, because my problem is when I do anything with a clutch, I want to get on the gas immediately. And that takes a lot of patience, evidently, to get off the line, especially because you'll watch you guys, especially out of the hole. And tonight, folks, if you come here, pay attention to these modified 4-wheel drive guys. They've got all that horsepower, and what they've got to do is work that throttle. And when you feel it hook, how do you know when that truck is hooking?
You'll feel it in the seat. A lot of times you feel the truck set down, but sometimes you don't. So you just it's on a spur of the moment thing. You just do it and hope it works.
Well, and you've got a new chassis by my understanding. What's the timetable on bringing that new chassis out that you're looking at right now?
Yep. Galen Young is doing my new truck, and hopefully we'll have this thing up and running for next year, but just some different technology. The old chassis we're running now, it's 20-year-old technology, and most times it works okay, but there's a lot of times it needs some improvements.
Yeah. And that's something I've noticed, and to bring back the tractors in on this a little bit. That's something I've noticed especially in the tractor classes. The big thing a couple of years ago was airbags, and now I'm seeing a lot of the pro stocks. How you doing this morning? I've seen a lot of the pro stocks, instead of using the airbags, they're using suspension, like actual shocks, to help with the rebound. So if you ever watch a tractor pull and you see those tractors, because we had a bunch last night that got up on the wheelie bars, and what happens is, and a better way to explain it is, when you hit that wheelie bar in the back, just like a drag car, it unloads those rear tires. So what happens, the next thing that happens, it's going to drop. And what happens is when that front end slams down hard, and we saw that with Caitlin and Wilson, it does damage to the chassis, the front end, all that kind of stuff. What they're starting to do is put airbags or either front suspension on it to absorb that shock and also help with the rebound. That's the other thing that I see. What's some other things y'all are doing in that tractor class to try to help get a better plane, a better launch with those things?
Well, like I say, it's all about, the hook in the rear tire, your tire pressure. But, there's a fine line between not hooking enough and having too much hook. And of course, the track they had in Wilson was a superb track a couple of weeks back. And like you mentioned, Caitlin there, it hooked out the hole. I mean, the tires got traction. It came up, unloaded on the wheelie bars and came down and went right back up. And of course, with no cushion up there, we had some frame damage, had to go back and, work on that thing for 5 or 6 days to even, get it back ready to go. But, I think the future in the tractors is some type of suspension on the front end, whether it be airbags or, some type of suspension.
Right.
Probably airbags are one of the more simple things to put up there, but, you get a lot of background noise sometimes between competitors with the airbags because
Right.
you can, add air and take air out of the airbags to raise and lower the front end, which can typically, one of the two of the main things that we have to have going across before we hook is check the weight of the tractor. We can run
Right.
up to 9,300 pounds, but also our drawbar height. We can hook up to 20-inch drawbar.
Right.
Well, if you get a competitor that's want to be funny and he air those airbags up and set that hitch on 20 and then let them down and all where the tractors with the suspension on the front end, it's non-adjustable.
Right.
That's not an issue. And I think that's probably just where a lot of it may be coming from is, put the suspension, it works well. But I think that's some of the things that we're probably going to look to go to in the future is a suspension on the tractor just to alleviate that damage, because sometimes the best driver and setup, if the track just hooks better and you bounce it pretty hard, you can definitely have some damage.
And something we'll talk about here during the shows, especially the track changes constantly. And so, like, especially in the 4-wheel drive class, because you're trying to get 4 tires hooked into that track. So, like, if you're running on a day track, say you're right in the middle of a class, and you're at that 8 o'clock, 8:30 time, and you're when the sun is up, like it is right out here today, that track is drying out. When that sun goes behind shade or goes behind clouds, that moisture will start coming up, or at nightfall. That's why a lot of times if you look on a track during the night, you'll see that sheen on the top. What kind of a quick adjustments can you do? Because I know he was just talking about you can't set the you can't change the hitch, and you can't change you can't change the weight, but you can move the weight around. What other adjustments can you do on that 4-wheel drive in order to make it for drastic changes, quick changes like that?
Well, Bert, you can't change air pressure. You can't change hitch. There's really nothing you can do mechanically on the truck. You just have to pick the better line on the track that you feel has got some moisture in it, and there again, throttle and clutch management. You really have to drive the truck smartly on the drier tracks, and hope that you have got some moisture in the track when you get down through there.
Well, and the thing about it is that's another thing we can talk about too. Track technology, what we're used to, we just sprayed water over top of it. Now you have all kinds of chemicals you can put in it to hold that moisture. And we're using something I've noticed a lot, and you saw this in Bowling Green. If you've ever been to Bowling Green, they use a lot of wood pulp, things like that. They'll use. You'll see some tracks using straw. They're putting that natural product in the dirt to hold that moisture in it. So during the day, it doesn't dry out as fast. So that's one big thing there. What's your goal tonight? What do you want to do? What is your game plan tonight?
Well, we want to have a safe pull and give the spectators a good show. And we want to be running when we get done to the other end and not tore up nothing, but just pick the track and look it over. And I'm sure Stephen Walker and then we'll have a good track for us again tonight.
Yeah, well, they definitely had one last night. We're gonna look. I appreciate you joining. In fact, folks, you see this truck here in the background. That's his. That's his. That's the Moonshine Express, and one thing I want to bring this up, and I know you don't like when I bring this up. In Pine Tops, and I don't know, this has probably been 10 years ago. This is the truck that, and if you were at Pine Tops that night, that was the wow thing. If we had had cell phones more back then, you would have seen that everywhere over social media. But the whole front end of that truck came out and went underneath the chassis. Tell us real quick what happened that night. What caused
the?
I know you don't like talking about it because I'm sure it brings back some bad memories.
175 feet. We lost steering. And then when we lost the steering, of course, the steering rack to the right side. And when it done that, it popped the front end spindle off. So then the truck, the weight bar went into the dirt. And then the sled hit us. And it was pretty ugly.
Yeah, it was. But it wasn't but a few weeks later you were back pulling.
Yes,
yeah.
Sir. We came right back.
That's right. Look, I appreciate you joining us. Glenn Hedrick with the Moonshine Express. We'll see you more later on during the season, I'm sure.
Thank you, Bert.
All right. DJ. Where's DJ? Come on up here, DJ. We got DJ Stevens coming up here. We're going to be talking to him a little bit. So one of the things you're going to see tonight, folks, is you're going to see a display of different classes. Everything from, we talked about it, 3 different, or actually there's 4 different tractor classes, and they all range in horsepower, ranging from 1,000 horsepower all the way up to approximately 5,000 horsepower. We got super modified 2-wheel drive trucks. If you know anything about top alcohol drag racing, they're running the same engines. I mean, you've got some of the top trucks here. You've got Brandon Lee that has been invited to Louisville twice and been up there, and along with Daniel's been up there to Louisville a couple of times too. So you've got some of the top competitors in the nation right here in Winston-Salem. So if you've got the opportunity, if you're within a couple of hours of here, take you a day trip. Come on out here. It's beautiful weather today. Come out here. Come on in. We'll have food vendors for you. We got all kinds of stuff. Walk around the pits, talk to them. If you got kids, bring them up for the pedal pull. Love to have that. 40 to 70 pounds. That's going to be a great thing for them to get involved with it. And, the action is going to be nonstop. We're going to start rolling right at 7 o'clock. We're going to drop that hitch, and we are going to get it done. We want to get you home at a decent hour, not unless you want to stop by Waffle House and grab you some good old, I don't know. It depends on what it's like when you get through with Waffle House. But if you want to stop and grab you some Waffle House on the way out, or even in my case, some Dunkin'. But, DJ, I tell you, you've been kind of the guy that's hiding a little bit behind the shadows a little bit this year. You've picked up a win, and you've had a couple of seconds, and you're kind of sitting up there with all these guys, and you're kind of the quiet guy that's not really saying a lot, but you're getting the job done.
Yeah, well, those 7th and 8th too. Don't forget those.
Well, I mean, we got to start somewhere, right?
Well, that's true, but I'm honest.
Well, the thing about it is, this is I would call this a new tractor. I mean, this is a fairly new tractor. You've only had it for a couple of years, and you're really, in the changes that you've done to it, that's what a lot of people don't realize. What are some of the, and I know you got a new engine in there right now, which we don't want to bring back that memory, because that happened to you, I believe, in Taylor's on Friday night. You found a bunch of metal in the oil filter.
Yeah, that's never a good sign. You never want to see that.
No, not at all. But let's talk about some of the things that you've learned just in the last 2 seasons, because you've made. Let's look at it. When you first started, you were pretty much, I would say, mid to back of the pack. You were 6th and down.
That's right.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because we all got to learn in the sport. That's one
right.
thing about it. And all of a sudden, and until you had the engine break, you'd got to win. You'd had a couple of seconds. You've had some thirds. Now, like you said, you've had some 7 and 8s too. What have you learned? And you ain't got to give away all your secrets, but obviously y'all been working hard on that tractor.
Well, actually, the tractor came from the organization, but whenever Stevens Truck and Tractor acquired the tractor, we totally redone it. We bought it. It was screwed up when we bought it, so we named it the Screwed Up Buck, because we're screwed up. It was screwed up, and we've screwed it up 3 or 4 times, so it just kind of fits. You know what I mean? And me and the owner, it fits us perfectly. You know what I mean? And so it is the Screwed Up Buck. We've done a lot to it. It's a lot of trial and error. Growing up on the farm don't mean nothing when you come out here, because everything you were taught as a kid, you do the exact opposite. I was taught to check the oil. I was taught not to rev it up sitting still. I was taught not to ride you did not ride
the clutch
at my house. You just didn't. You might have done it one time, but I guarantee tomorrow you didn't do it.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
in this hot form class, it's the exact opposite. You ride the clutch, you rev it wide open, sitting still. The oil don't touch the dipstick. I mean, it's the exact opposite of everything you've ever learned. So there is a definite learning curve regardless of where you come from. I honestly think if you took somebody that had never been on a tractor would adapt faster than somebody that's been on a tractor most of their life.
Right.
That's just my personal opinion, because someone that's been taught not to do something, it's hard to break old habits. It's easier to teach new habits sometimes. There again, we've had a lot of trials and tribulations, but just the big learning curve was the biggest thing. And of course, we had to work on the motor a little bit. And of course, you try to find more horsepower everywhere you go, because you got to keep up with these red tractors. There is a blue tractor in the class, but as everybody knows, red and blue make green. Everybody was taught that as kids. You know what I mean? And I've tried to tell Mr. Goatee that for years, and he's a diehard red man. It's all right.
And if you didn't know, because if you don't know by now, he's a green tractor. Okay, so you know that I've never heard that before. That's awesome. Red, blue, make green. That's right.
And so we've had some troubles, but we finally got it figured out. We were working in the right direction, and then all of a sudden we just found a bunch of metal in the screen. It had never produced any metal, and then just to go there and get you 2 handfuls is not a real good thing to do. So we had to we missed a couple pulls. We missed Wilson by 30 minutes. I had it ready. I backed out there to put the weights on it, and then the belly bar wouldn't fit. So I just stopped. We went and watched, and so that's. But yes, there's a lot to learn. It's a definite learning curve, and definitely nothing that you were taught growing up.
So, and you know, we were talking about that. You were talking about that learning curve. One of the biggest things that I've noticed in the hot farm class, especially, is that when you guys leave the line, number one, this class, like we talked about earlier, started at about 700 horsepower, and it's progressively stepped up with the technology. But one big important part of that pro farm class is the turbocharger, because it is a box turbocharger. So, you know, that's where you get your horsepower from. That and the fuel system is your 2 big components to get your horsepower from. And obviously internal components are important too, but if you want to, you can turn the screw up, but if you ain't got no more wind to put in that tractor. So, and instead of just changing the turbocharger to a better turbocharger and then turning the screw up on the fuel or changing the fuel system, how are y'all getting that extra 50, 75 horsepower? How are y'all making the jumps to get more horsepower? Or is it that you're just finally getting it to the ground? Or is that the case?
Well, that's where we were right before we messed the motor up. We were into tires. And so we've been playing with tire pressure. Tires is a big thing. We didn't really realize it was such a big thing. We started out last year with a low tire pressure, and we were killing the tractor at the end. So I finally decided if I'd put them tires up, maybe they would spin. There again, listen to my uncle there a little bit. He told me. But there again, growing up on the eastern side of North Carolina, you go to the tractor pool, everybody says, turn the fuel up and go pull it. Well, that's not necessarily what this is. We actually turned the fuel down and went done butter. He told me that all last year, and I'm hard-headed. I won't listen.
More power.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I said, no, it rides good right here where it's set. And he was like, no, you need less fuel. I said, no, it rides right good. He said, no, you need more air. If I'd have listened to him last year, we'd have probably been better last year than what we were.
Right.
But there again, that goes with that learning curve. But there is a definite deal with the way you take off. The turbocharger is the limiting factor in the class. Everybody's running the same thing. I like that. I like that a lot because I know what he's got under his hood. It's just how he gets it out to the ground.
Right.
And now it's more of a driver's game, setup game, because we're moving the same air.
Right.
He can't move it no faster than I can because it's the same air. But can I drive better than him? Or can he set the tractor up better than me? That's where it comes in. That's where it gets back to the tractor pulling to me.
And let's talk about this a little bit, especially, and I bring this up just about every podcast, and there's a reason. Because if you look in the pro farm class, you've got 2 different sets of tires. Now, depending on that set of tires is going to make a difference in your ratio. So tell us the size of tire you run and maybe a reason why you decided to run that size tire.
We're actually running a 24.532, and there again, the tractor came from the organization. He already was running that tire. He had already tried the 38. So thanks to Cam, I had a lot of R&D that was already done for me whenever I got on board, and I knew that the 38, he had already got off the 38 tire
Right.
because of the gear. He was already trying to gear the tractor, so he already had me headed in the right direction. I just continued on what he had already started.
And that's one thing about it. And we were talking about that at the finish line last night. Everybody was talking about, and you heard John Pickler say the 38s are going to win tonight. That's what was on his mind. That's what he was thinking about. And we need to bring up Brianna Beasley, because let me tell you something. She about got all you guys last night. She was right on y'all's door. And Beth had a good run last night. I mean, it was that class, if you want to watch, and that's one of the lower horsepower classes. But you guys have normally 10 tractors, and they are so close. You really don't know. It's almost who draw the early number, who draw the late number, and who can spin out at the end.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is in a pro form class, and that's one reason why I like that class is really growing on me. If you don't know who I am, I used to drive a mod, and I've always been a mini and a mod guy. But the tractors are starting to rub off on me a little bit, So these guys, I'm telling you, it's fun to watch you guys pull.
You need a green one.
I need a green one.
Yes.
I got an orange one at home.
Well, we can paint it green.
We can paint it green. That's what they make rattle can for, right?
That's
right. That's right. But DJ, I tell you, that's one tractor we're kind of watching. We're watching a lot now, and I tell you, Brianna last night. Beth McDonald with the Revelation. Alan Moore, that's another guy that's kind of sleeping. He's sitting back there like, yep, I'm going to get you. He ain't got his first win yet, but let me tell you, he's picked up his fair share of seconds. And Zachy Bizzett, I don't know what's in that tractor. You're going to say it's because it's green. I know what you're going to say. But that right now, he is finding that combination. He is getting that horsepower to the ground. He definitely spent the money and spent the time to get that tractor dialed in. He's the target everybody's got. And, Justin Sturtevant with the red iron, that's been, he's getting that tractor dialed in. So he snuck up and picked up a couple of wins. So, that class is really tightening it up. And, just tonight, folks, I promise you, you come out here tonight, it's going to be the best $20 you spent. You can look, I took my daughter to the movie theaters the other week. And let me tell you something. I'm glad she likes tractor pulling. Okay, because it was cheaper. It's cheaper to take her to a tractor pull. And you want to know the other great thing about my 6-year-old? We'll get home at night, and used to it would be like, she wanted to watch Power Rangers or some show or something like that. Now you get home, it's like, what do you want to watch, honey? She goes, I want to watch tractor pulling, Daddy. I'm like, yes, Daddy can do that. Yeah, Daddy can do that. So, bring your kids out here, get them to know all the pullers. I mean, we're going to be out here at 5 o'clock. Come by, say hey. Look, this is going to be a great event here tonight. Beautiful weather. The weather, all season long, we've struggled with one rainy night or the other. But this weekend, humidity's low. The sun is out. As you can tell, we're kind of actually looking towards the sun because I didn't want the camera in the shot. But, guys, you don't want to miss it tonight. Winston-Salem Fairgrounds starts right at 7 p.m. Gates open at 5 o'clock. 6 o'clock, around 6 o'clock will be the pedal pull for kids. That's 40 to 70 pounds.
Right. I was going to talk on that just a little bit, Bert. To our viewers that may or may not know, but the pedal pool, we call it the pedal against drugs. We want to involve our kids into sport. But with the pedal pool, like Bert said, there's 3 weight classes, 40 to 70. Break the kids up by weight. But also what we do is the winner of each division of the pedal pool has opportunity to go to the NC State Fair. I believe that'll be October the 19th, Saturday morning at the State Fair, October the 19th. And everywhere we go this whole season, everywhere we pull and have on Saturdays, we always have the pedal pool. Each winner of each weight division will compete at the NC State Fair. And, of course, they have some nice prizes at the NC State Fair.
I mean, number one, they give away free tickets. They give away candy and stuff for the kids, which I know the adults are probably like, no, probably don't need to do that. But they'll get all that energy out at the fairgrounds. Not only that, if they win their class, they normally give away bicycles there. So that this is a great thing to bring kids involved. Plus, who doesn't want to go to the state fair? That is free to the family and the kids, so you don't have to pay to get into the NC State Fair. You can do free parking, and what we'll do is we'll get you out there in the pits, and we will shuttle you down to the track that morning, and they will have their big finale like we do at the end of the year at the NC State Fair. So, folks, that NC State Fair pool is a massive pool. That's a regional national pool also. That's 18th, 19th, and 20th. That information, we've got more information. It's on social media. Don't forget to go to UPOC Pulling on Facebook or go to upocpulling.com. If you got any questions about anything, message us. We'd be glad to answer any questions you have about the events coming up. The NC State Fair is going to wrap us up. Everybody wants to win the NC State Fair, not only for regional points for the following year, but just to say you won the NC State Fair, because that's where the biggest crowds in North Carolina. I believe last year, talking to some of the guys there, they had around 5,000 on Saturday night. Those grandstands were packed. It's just one of the best venues to do truck and tractor pulling here in the state of North Carolina.
It is. The NC State Fair wraps up our season. We normally start truck and tractor pulling here in North Carolina somewhere the end of April, the 1st of May, and go all the way through the NC State Fair. And now I think there is a weekend past the NC State Fair in Hickory, North Carolina, that kind of wraps everything up with those guys up there. But it really helps out because with the NC State Fair and the guys with the pool in Hickory, folks can come down from the north and come in from the west, and you get several hooks. It's already got cold weather up north. It's already cold in the west, and the guys come down here and put on a superb show to finish up in the east, and show the fans really what truck and tractor pulling is all about.
Well, and that's what we were talking about. Glenn Hedrick, these pullers, this is their family. This is our family during the summertime. When we come out, if you come out here at night after the show's over, everybody's cooking somewhere. Everybody's hanging out having a cold one or cold Pepsi Cola. Yeah, that's what it is. And Pepsi. Pepsi. Yeah, I probably shouldn't say that, or Dunkin'. Anyway,
or Dunkin'. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And we got Krispy Kreme donuts. I'm just going to throw them all in there right now while we're talking about it. But that's one thing about it. We're a big family. We want you to come out here, enjoy the show. This is going to be a great event tonight, folks. We're going to wrap things up because we got a lot of people working on stuff, getting things. We got more pullers coming in. I believe Cody Singletary and Kevin Hill. Now, they're driving literally all night to get here today.
That's right. They left, Wauseon, Ohio?
They
pulled in Wauseon last night, and I was down by the track, and Cody called me. Is everything going good? He said it was about 10 o'clock. He said, we just got loaded in Wauseon, and he said, Kevin Hill and I are coming across the mountains, and we will be in Winston-Salem this afternoon, and we will be there with you guys. Back even more impressive than that, he was in Rockwell, Iowa. And he left Rockwell, Iowa, literally 22 hours, and he come into Wilson right at 6 o'clock.
And then it got
rained out. But, you got to give the guy A for effort. I mean,
he no doubt about it, Cody Singletary. And he's made a lot of strides in the Grand National level. He's been in the top 10. He's had a couple of top 5s in there. I believe his highest rating was in Fort Recovery. I think he got 4th or 5th.
That's right.
So he's but he wants to support his local pools. That's the biggest thing. And when I text him that morning, I was like, "Are you really going to try it?" He's like, "Yeah, we'll be there by 4:30."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm glad somebody's got some good coffee.
If you got a map, you just look at Wilson, North Carolina, and you draw a line to Rockwell, Iowa, and you see how far it is. And like I say, about 10 o'clock that Saturday morning, I called him just to see. I said, I know he's bedded down and stopped somewhere. And he said, hey, I'm in Beckley, West Virginia. And he said, I'm coming. And, there was nobody out there. A lot of times Cody travels with a pretty good sized team, but that weekend, just he and his fiancee Parrish were there. And, for those two, they took turns driving. One would sleep a while, one would drive a while. About 3 hours, one would sleep and one would drive. So, you got to give a shout out to that kind of guy that's coming home to support his hometown group. You got to give a thumbs up to that guy.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
Not to mention he's just an A1 guy, period.
Yeah, he'll do anything he can to help. And I know it doesn't help you because you don't need a blower, you don't need rocker stands.
But I tell you what, I got in a bind one night, and Cody didn't say nothing. He didn't. He just jumped right into action, and got me out of a bind. Matter of fact, Mr. McDonald was there. We were in a little bind there getting in the trailer one night, and he just looked and saw what was going on and jumped into action. That's the kind of guy Cody is.
Well, that's the kind of family that we have here with Fulton. So, you know, one thing, folks, don't forget, we're going to wrap this up tonight. Gates open, 5 p.m. Show starts at 7. Pedal pull, 40 to 70 pounds. There's 3 weight classes in that for an opportunity to go to the NC State Fair to wrap up the United Puller season. Go to upocpulling.com, UPOC Pulling on Facebook. Check us out there. If you've got any questions, message us. Winston Salem Tractor Pull. Also, folks, just go right to us, message us if you got any questions. Be glad to answer. We will see you tonight. 5 o'clock, get on out here early, walk around the pits, get a cold drink, hot dog, do the pedal pull, do it all. It's all for the family, folks. We're going to wrap it up right here. See you tonight. Thank you guys for joining us. Marvin McDonald, DJ Stevens.
Screwed up boat to the front.
Screwed up boat to the front. Glenn Hedrick, Brad Gautier, appreciate them joining us. Steven, you got any last words? No, he's just shaking his head. Nose.
One last thing, I would like to thank Mr. McDonald. He's done a great thing for this organization and a great venue. Perry and Stephen also. Thank you.
Yep. No doubt about it. We're going to see you tonight. I'm going to have to get up and turn this off. Tonight, 5 o'clock, gates open, 7 o'clock, show starts, pedal pull, food, family, friends. It's just all going to be a great show. See you tonight, 7 o'clock.